The market on Space Station Omega-7 bustled with activity. Merchants from a dozen worlds hawked their wares beneath flickering purple lights. The air hung heavy with the scent of alien spices and machine oil. Captain Jack Walker moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his tall human frame standing out among the various alien species. Jack hadn't planned to visit this remote outpost. A navigation error had forced his small trading vessel to make an unscheduled stop for repairs. Now he found himself wandering the market while his ship's computer systems recalibrated. Fresh Centaurian fruits. Get them while they're ripe. Call the vendor with 4 arms. Jack smiled politely and kept walking. His attention drifted to the far end of the market where a small crowd had gathered. Curiosity drew him closer. The crowd circled around a makeshift stage. On it stood various aliens in chains. Jack's smile vanished as he realized what he was seeing. A slave auction. His stomach tightened with disgust. "This practice is legal in this sector," said a green-skinned merchant who noticed Jack's expression. "Many species still trade in living property." Jack didn't respond. His eyes had locked onto one of the figures on stage. She stood apart from the others, a slender alien with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the harsh lights. Her large eyes, completely black except for tiny silver pupils, stared at the ground. 2 small antennae protruded from her forehead, trembling slightly. An alien with thick gray hide prodded her with an electrified rod. "Stand straight," he barked. The blue alien flinched but obeyed. "What species is she?" Jack asked, unable to look away. The green merchant shrugged. "Some say stellari, but they're supposed to be extinct. Probably just a similar species. The Dominion wiped out the real stellari decades ago." "And why would they do that?" "Stellari could connect with machines using only their minds. Made them too dangerous to keep around, but too valuable not to use." The merchant moved closer. "I wouldn't show too much interest unless you plan to bid. The owner doesn't like people eyeing his merchandise." The auctioneer, a bulky 6-limbed creature, began the bidding. Next up, a rare specimen. Young female, good health, docile temperament. Useful for many tasks. Starting bid at 5,000 credits. Several aliens raised their bidding cards. Jack watched as the price climbed quickly to 15,000 credits. The blue alien kept her eyes down, but Jack noticed a single tear slide down her cheek. Something inside him snapped. Without thinking, he pushed through the crowd and raised his hand. 20,000 credits, he called out. The auctioneer's eyes widened in surprise. 20,000 from the human. Any higher bids? Silence fell over the crowd. Jack could feel their stares. Sold to the human for 20,000 credits. Minutes later, Jack stood before the auction manager, transferring nearly all his trading profits for the quarter. The blue alien stood nearby, still in chains, confusion in her black eyes. "Paperwork's all proper now," said the manager, handing Jack a control device. "She's yours. Use the control if she gives you trouble." Jack pocketed the device without looking at it. "Remove her chains." The manager shrugged and unlocked the restraints. "Your property, your choice." As they walked away, a large alien blocked their path. His gray hide marked him as the one who had prodded the blue alien earlier. "You overpaid, human," he growled. "She's defective. Doesn't respond well to discipline." Jack met his gaze evenly. "Then I'm glad I bought her instead of you." The alien's face darkened. "Watch yourself, human. The Dominion doesn't appreciate interference with their interests." Jack guided the blue alien past him without reply. As they walked toward his ship, she kept glancing at him with uncertainty. "What's your name?" Jack asked gently. She hesitated before answering in a soft voice. "Lyra." "I'm Jack, and you're not my slave." "Lyra. You're free now." Her silver pupils widened in disbelief as they boarded his ship, the first step in a journey that would change the galaxy forever. Jack's ship, the Horizon, hummed quietly as it moved through deep space. 3 days had passed since they left Space Station Omega-7. For those 3 days, Lyra had barely spoken. She spent most of her time huddled in the small cabin Jack had given her, emerging only when he called her for meals. On the 4th day, Jack found her standing in the observation room, staring at the stars. Her blue skin seemed to glow in the starlight. "Feeling better?" he asked, keeping his distance. Lyra turned, her antennae twitching slightly. "Why did you free me?" Jack leaned against the doorway. "Where I come from, people aren't property. I don't understand. All species keep slaves. It's the way of the galaxy. Not for humans." Jack moved closer, careful not to startle her. "Humans banned slavery centuries ago. We believe all thinking beings deserve freedom." Lyra studied him, her black eyes unblinking. "You're the first human I've ever met." "And you're the first stellary I've ever met," Jack replied. "I thought your kind were extinct." Her antennae flattened against her head. "We are not extinct. Just hidden." Jack sat down on a nearby bench, giving her space. The merchant at the market said something about stellary being able to connect with machines. For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. Then, slowly, she raised her hand toward the lighting panel on the wall. Her antennae straightened and began to glow with a soft silver light. The room's lights dimmed, then brightened, then returned to normal. "This is why the Dominion hunts us," she said quietly. "We can merge our consciousness with technology. Speak to machines as you speak to me." Jack tried to hide his amazement. "That's incredible." "It's dangerous," Lyra corrected. "The Dominion discovered our abilities generations ago. They enslaved my people, using us to control their ships, their weapons. When some stellary rebelled, the Dominion burned our homeworld." She turned back to the stars. "I was born in hiding. My parents were part of a small colony. The Dominion found us when I was young. They killed everyone except the children. Children are easier to train as slaves." Jack felt a surge of anger. "How many more of your people are out there? Still enslaved?" "I don't know. I've been alone for so long." Her voice trembled. "The slave master separated us, said it prevented rebellion." The ship's alert system suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed throughout the cabin. "Warning. Unidentified vessel approaching. Scanning signature matches Dominion patrol ship." Jack rushed to the control room, Lyra following close behind. The main screen showed a large, insect-like ship moving toward them. "They found us already." Jack's fingers flew across the controls. "How could they track us this far?" Lyra touched her neck, revealing a small scar. "The slave chip. All Dominion slaves are tracked." "Why didn't you tell me?" Jack checked the engines. The horizon was fast, but not fast enough to outrun a Dominion warship. "I thought." Lyra hesitated. "I thought you knew. That you were taking me somewhere to sell." Their eyes met, and Jack saw fear in hers, but also a flicker of hope. "I'm not selling you anywhere," he said firmly. "You're free now, remember? And I plan to keep you that way." The ship rocked as the Dominion vessel fired a warning shot. "Attention, human vessel," boomed a harsh voice over the comm system. "You are harboring stolen Dominion property. Surrender the stellary immediately or be destroyed." Jack looked at Lyra. "Can you still connect with technology? With this ship?" Her antennae began to glow. "Yes, but..." "Then help me fly this thing," Jack said, his face determined. "Let's show them what happens when a human and a stellary work together." For the first time since he'd met her, Lyra smiled. Her antennae brightened as she placed her hands on the control panel. And the horizon came alive like never before. The horizon shuddered as another blast from the Dominion ship struck its shields. In the control room, Jack gripped the pilot's chair while Lyra stood beside him, her hands flat against the main console, her antennae glowing bright silver. "Shields at 40%, Jack announced, checking the readouts. "We can't take much more of this." Lyra's eyes had rolled back, showing only white as her consciousness merged with the ship's systems. "I can feel every part of your vessel," she said, her voice strangely distant. "It wants to help us." The horizon jerked suddenly to the left, narrowly avoiding a torpedo. Jack hadn't touched the controls. "Are you doing that?" he asked, amazed. "Yes." Lyra's fingers pressed deeper into the console. "Your ship's navigation system is basic but functional. I can make it better." The main screen flickered, then displayed a complex series of flight paths that hadn't been there before. Jack watched as the horizon automatically selected one of these paths, diving beneath the Dominion warship. "How are you calculating these routes so quickly?" Lyra didn't answer. Her entire body now glowed with the same silver light as her antennae. The ship's lights dimmed as she drew more power into the engines. "Warning. Engine output exceeding safety parameters," announced the ship's computer. "She knows what she's doing," Jack muttered, trusting Lyra despite his own nervousness. He opened a communication channel. "Dominion vessel, this is Captain Jack Walker of the Independent Trader Horizon. The person you're seeking is not property. She's under my protection as a free being." The response came immediately, a harsh voice filled with anger. "Human laws do not apply here. The Stellari belongs to the Dominion. Surrender now, or we will destroy your vessel." As if to emphasize the point, the Dominion ship fired again. This time, the blast hit directly. The horizon spun wildly, and warning alarms blared throughout the cabin. "Direct hit," Jack reported. "Shields at 15%. Lyra opened her eyes, which now glowed with the same silver light as her antennae. "I need more power. I can get us away, but I need everything the ship has." Jack hesitated only for a second. "Do it." Lyra's glow intensified. The lights in the control room went completely dark. Every system not essential for life support shut down, channeling power to the engines. The horizon shot forward with such speed that Jack was thrown back in his chair. The stars on the view screen blurred into lines of light. "Impossible speeds detected," the computer warned. "Hull integrity at risk." "I've reconfigured the shield geometry," Lyra explained, her voice now sounding like a blend of herself and the ship's computer. "We can maintain this speed for 47 seconds. It will be enough to escape their sensor range." The Dominion ship grew smaller on the rear view screen. It fired several more times, but the shots fell short as the distance between the vessels increased rapidly. Exactly 47 seconds later, the horizon slowed. Lyra collapsed to the floor, the glow fading from her body. Jack rushed to her side. "Lyra, are you okay?" She opened her eyes slowly, back to their normal black with silver pupils. "I haven't connected that deeply in years," she whispered. "The slave masters punished us if we used our full abilities." Jack helped her to a seat. "You saved us." "Temporarily." Lyra's antennae drooped with exhaustion. "They'll track us again." The Dominion never gives up what they consider their property. Jack checked the navigation system. Lyra's interface had permanently improved it, showing star systems he hadn't been able to map before. "There's a human outpost 3 days from here," he said, pointing to a small planet on the display. "We can get help there, maybe find a way to remove your tracking chip." Lyra touched her neck where the chip was embedded. "The Dominion will send more ships. Bigger ones. They'll punish you for helping me." Jack set the course for the human outpost. "Let them try." "You don't understand," Lyra insisted. "Humans aren't important to the Dominion. They won't just send ships after us now. Once they realize what you've done, that a human has defied them, they'll mark all humans as enemies." Jack gave her a determined look. Maybe it's time someone stood up to them. As the horizon moved deeper into space, a call went out from the Dominion ship to its headquarters. The message was simple. A human had stolen valuable Dominion property and must be made an example of. The hunt had begun. The human outpost on planet Vera hung on the very edge of explored space. From orbit, it looked small and unremarkable, a cluster of domed buildings surrounded by farmland and defense turrets. To Jack and Lyra, it was the most beautiful sight they had seen in days. "Approaching vessel. Identify yourself," came a stern voice over the communication system. "This is Captain Jack Walker of the Independent Trader Horizon," Jack replied, requesting emergency landing and medical assistance. There was a pause before the voice responded. Scans showed 2 life forms aboard. 1 human, 1 unidentified. "Explain." Jack glanced at Lyra. "I have a passenger. She needs medical attention." Another long pause followed. "Permission to land granted. Proceed to docking bay 3. Security will meet you there." The Horizon descended through the planet's thin atmosphere. Lyra stood by the view screen, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. The tracking chip in her neck had begun causing her pain, a failsafe designed to punish escaped slaves. "Will your people help me?" she asked quietly. Jack guided the ship toward the landing pad. "These aren't exactly my people. This outpost is for traders, explorers, and people who want to be left alone. But yes, they'll help." 6 armed guards waited as they exited the ship. A woman with short gray hair stepped forward, her hand resting on her holstered weapon. "I'm Commander Reed," she said, eyeing Lyra with suspicion. "Welcome to Vera, Captain Walker." She nodded toward Lyra. "And who might this be?" "Her name is Lyra," Jack explained. "She's Stellari." The guards exchanged surprised looks. Commander Reed's eyes narrowed. "Stellari are extinct," she said flatly. "Not extinct," Lyra replied, meeting the commander's gaze. "Just hunted." Reed studied her for a moment, then noticed how Lyra clutched at her neck in pain. "You're injured." "Dominion tracking chip," Jack explained. "It needs to be removed." Reed's expression hardened. "You stole Dominion property. Do you have any idea what that means for this outpost?" "She's not property," Jack insisted, stepping between Reed and Lyra. "She's a person who was enslaved, and I bought her freedom." A tense silence followed. Finally, Reed sighed. "Follow me, both of you." They were led to the medical facility, a small but clean building with advanced equipment. A doctor with kind eyes examined the chip in Lyra's neck. "I can remove it," he said, "but it will trigger an alert to its owners when it goes offline." "They're already hunting us," Jack replied. "Just get it out of her." While the doctor prepared for the procedure, Commander Reed pulled Jack aside. "The nearest Dominion outpost is only 2 systems away," she warned. "Once they trace you here, they'll come in force." "I couldn't leave her," Jack said simply. Reed studied him. "Humanity abolished slavery 800 years ago. It's in our blood to hate it. But most species out here don't share that view." She glanced at Lyra, who lay on the medical table. "The Dominion especially. What do you know about the Stellari?" Jack asked. "Only stories. Their abilities made them valuable. Too valuable to be allowed freedom." Reed's expression softened slightly. "What you did was foolish, but I understand why you did it." The operation took less than an hour. The doctor placed the removed chip in a sealed container. "It's still active," he explained. "We can use it to mislead them." Life at the outpost adjusted to accommodate the newcomers. Jack helped with repairs to earn their keep, while Lyra slowly recovered her strength. The humans were cautious around her at first. Most had never seen a Stellari before, and rumors of their powers caused unease. But as days passed, she began to win them over. She helped fix systems that had troubled the outpost's engineers for months. She shared stories of distant worlds she had seen as a slave. Gradually, the fear turned to curiosity, then acceptance. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the outpost's observation deck, Lyra turned to Jack. "Your people are strange," she said. "You help others even when it brings you danger." Jack smiled. "That's what humans do. At our best anyway." "The Dominion will still come," Lyra warned. "I know," Jack nodded, watching the distant stars appear in the darkening sky. "But when they do, they won't find just me standing against them." Around them, the lights of the human outpost glowed brighter as night fell, a small beacon of freedom in a galaxy where such things were rare. 2 weeks passed at the outpost. The tracking chip, sent away on an automated probe, had successfully missiled the Dominion patrols, For now. Jack knew this safety was temporary. Each night, Lyra woke screaming from nightmares of recapture. On the 15th day, Jack found Lyra in the outpost's small garden, her fingers gently touching the leaves of an earth plant. "Have you ever seen a real flower before?" he asked, sitting beside her. Lyra shook her head. "Only in the memories of my parents. They told stories of our homeworld, how it was covered in silver flowers that sang in the wind." Her antennae drooped. "I wonder if any of my kind are still free out there." Jack had been thinking the same thing. "You mentioned being born in a hidden colony. Do you remember anything about its location?" Lyra closed her eyes. "I was very young when the Dominion found us. I remember. Stars shaped like a bowl. And a red moon." She looked at him sadly. "Not very helpful." "Maybe it is." Jack stood up. "Come with me." They headed to the outpost's small library. Jack activated the star mapping system, a three-dimensional hologram of known space. "Show me all systems with red moons," he commanded. The map highlighted dozens of locations. Too many to search. "What about star formations that look like bowls?" Jack asked. The computer identified several possibilities. Still too many. Lyra stepped forward, her antennae beginning to glow. "May I try?" Jack nodded, and Lyra placed her hands on the console. The silver glow spread from her antennae to her fingertips and into the machine. The star map shifted rapidly, zooming in and out as Lyra searched through the database faster than any human could. Finally, she stopped at a small, unmarked system near the edge of charted space. "Here, this feels right." The system had 7 planets orbiting a yellow sun. The 4th planet had a large red moon and was positioned beneath a curved arrangement of stars. "It's not on any trade routes," Jack noted. "No recorded visits in the database." "Perfect for hiding," Lyra whispered, hope filling her voice. Jack didn't need to think long. "We need to go there." Commander Reed wasn't happy with their plan. "That system is beyond our emergency response range," she warned. "If you find trouble there, you're on your own." "We understand," Jack replied. "But Lyra deserves to know if her people still exist." Reed sighed. "The horizon is repaired and refueled. We've also upgraded your shields, best we could." She looked at Lyra. "I hope you find what you're looking for." 3 days later, the horizon entered the unmarked system. Scans showed the 4th planet was habitable, with breathable atmosphere and liquid water. As they approached, Lyra pressed her hands against the view screen, her antennae vibrating with excitement. "There's something here," she whispered. "I can feel it." They landed in a small clearing surrounded by silver-leaf trees. The air smelled sweet, like nothing Jack had experienced before. They walked for an hour, finding no signs of civilization. "Maybe I was wrong," Lyra said, her hope fading. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. Before Jack could react, they were falling through a hidden trapdoor. They landed on a soft surface in complete darkness. Lights flashed on, blinding them. When Jack's eyes adjusted, he saw they were surrounded by blue-skinned figures with glowing antennae. Stellari, at least 20 of them, holding strange weapons. "Who are you?" demanded one, pointing his weapon at Jack. "How did you find this place?" Lyra stepped forward, her antennae glowing in response to theirs. "My name is Lyra. I was born among our people before the Dominion took me." The Stellari leader lowered his weapon slightly, studying her face. "Lyra, daughter of Mela and Terran." Lyra gasped. "You knew my parents." The leader's severe expression softened. "They were my friends. They died protecting the children when the Dominion attacked our colony." He turned his attention to Jack. "And what is this human doing here?" "He freed me," Lyra explained. "Bought my freedom and protected me from the Dominion. Humans don't believe in slavery." Murmurs spread through the gathered Stellari. The leader approached Jack cautiously. "Is this true? You willingly opposed the Dominion for one of our kind?" Jack nodded. "Where I come from, all thinking beings deserve freedom." The leader studied Jack for a long moment, then made a gesture with his hand. The other Stellari lowered their weapons. "I am Farron," he said, "leader of what remains of the Free Stellari. There are 117 of us here." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was alone." Farron smiled sadly. "You are not alone, Lyra. You have found your way home." As they were led deeper into the hidden Stellari colony, Jack realized this discovery would change everything. Not just for Lyra, but possibly for the entire galaxy. The hidden Stellari colony impressed Jack with its beauty and technology. Built inside a massive cave system, the settlement blended natural rock formations with advanced machinery. Everywhere, blue-skinned Stellari moved about, their antennae glowing softly as they communicated with both each other and the machines around them. Lyra had been welcomed like a lost child. She spent days reconnecting with her people, learning their history and customs. Jack observed with quiet joy, happy to see her among her own kind. Farron had shown Jack to a comfortable room carved into the rock. Though some Stellari remained suspicious of the human, most treated him with cautious respect. On the 5th day, Farron called them to the colony's central chamber. His expression was grim. "Our sensors have detected Dominion ships entering the system," he announced. 3 warships, heavily armed. Jack's heart sank. How did they find this place? Farron's antennae flattened against his head. "Unknown, but they are methodically scanning each planet." "It's my fault," Lyra said, her voice breaking. "They must have tracked the horizon somehow." Farron placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It was inevitable. We have remained hidden for decades, but the Dominion's reach grows ever wider." "What will you do?" Jack asked. "What we have always done. Evacuate. Hide. Survive." Farron sighed. "We have emergency ships. We will scatter to our backup locations. And abandon your home." Again, Jack shook his head. "There has to be another way." Lyra looked at him. "What do you suggest?" Jack thought for a moment. "How many ships does the outpost on Vera have?" "Perhaps a dozen small fighters," Farron replied. "Not enough against Dominion warships." "Maybe not alone," Jack said, an idea forming. "But what if they had Stellari helping them?" Lyra's eyes widened. "You mean?" "A partnership," Jack nodded. "Humans providing the ships, Stellari enhancing them with your abilities. Together, we might stand a chance." Farron looked skeptical. "Why would humans risk their lives for us?" "Because that's what humans do," Jack replied simply. "We fight for freedom, ours and others." After heated debate, the colony agreed to Jack's plan. He contacted Commander Reed on Vera, explaining the situation. "You want us to fight the Dominion?" Reed asked incredulously. "With what?" "We have a few patrol ships and outdated weapons." "You'll have something the Dominion doesn't expect," Jack replied. "Stellari partners." There was a long pause before Reed answered. "Give me 2 hours to speak with my people." To Jack's relief, the outpost agreed. 10 ships launched from Vera, each carrying extra life support equipment for their Stellari partners. When they arrived at the colony, 20 of the strongest Stellari, including Lyra, volunteered to join them. "This has never been done before," Farron said as they prepared. "Stellari and humans fighting together." "Then it's about time we tried it," Jack replied. The plan was simple but dangerous. While the colony evacuated its most vulnerable members, the human Stellari teams would engage. "All ships target the lead warship's engines," Jack commanded. The coordinated attack struck home. The Dominion flagship's engines exploded in a burst of blue energy. The other warships, seeing their commander crippled, began to retreat. As the Dominion fled, cheers erupted across the communication channels. Human voices mingled with Stellari tones in celebration of an impossible victory. Lyra looked at Jack, her eyes shining. "We did it." "We did," Jack agreed, watching the stars where the Dominion ships had disappeared. "But this isn't over. They'll be back, with more ships. And we'll be ready," Lyra said, a new confidence in her voice. "Together." Unknown to them, the battle had been recorded by the Dominion's own systems. Across the galaxy, the footage began to spread, showing for the first time that the mighty Dominion could be defeated, and by the most unlikely alliance imaginable. 60 days after the battle at the Stellary colony, Jack stood on the observation deck of the human space station Freedom. Below him, Earth gleamed blue and beautiful, unchanged by the galactic upheaval taking place around it. "Impressive view," said Lyra, joining him. Her blue skin had a healthy glow, and her antennae stood tall with confidence. "I never thought I would see your homeworld." Jack smiled. "I never thought I'd be standing here with you, about to address the United Earth Council." The footage of their battle against the Dominion had spread faster than anyone expected. Someone on one of the human ships had transmitted the entire engagement across open channels. Within days, it had reached every corner of the galaxy, including Earth itself. "Captain Walker, Miss Lyra," a human aide called from the doorway. "The Council is ready for you." They walked together into the grand chamber where Earth's leaders had gathered. Representatives from all human colonies were present, their faces serious as Jack and Lyra took their places at the speaker's podium. "Captain Walker," began the Council President, "your actions have placed humanity at the center of a galactic situation. The Dominion has sent formal demands for your arrest and the return of all Stellari to their custody." Jack stood straight. "And your response, Madam President?" She smiled slightly. "We informed them that humans do not recognize slavery as a legal institution, and that all beings seeking freedom would find sanctuary with us." A murmur of approval ran through the chamber. "That brings us to the matter at hand," the President continued. "In the 2 months since your battle was broadcast, 17 uprisings have occurred on Dominion-controlled worlds. 3 slave species have declared their independence, and 23 Stellari have escaped captivity and sought asylum with human colonies." Lyra stepped forward. "The spark of freedom spreads quickly when given air to breathe." The President nodded. "Indeed, which is why we have invited representatives from the Galactic Council to join us today." The doors opened, and 3 aliens entered. Jack recognized their species: a Trellin, a Vox, and a Moritari, all members of the powerful Galactic Council that had long ignored the Dominion's practice of slavery. For centuries, the Council has maintained a policy of non-interference with cultural practices, the Trellin representative said, his voice translated through a small device. "We considered slavery an unfortunate but local matter.